I'd like to go sailing on one of those ships.
I thought a bit of Rule Britannia. Here we go. This week of politics. Bo.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for making that culture. But I actually decided last week we talked about British politics. Perhaps this week we could talk about US politics, because a lot of people, not everyone that watches this show is British. The internet, YouTube, a lot of people are American. So anyway, it's very nice of Mr. H to sort of indulge me, but it is sort of my day job. It is sort of my postgraduate thing is politics, and I know Nate has been on Load Seaters a couple of times, so isn't particularly new or isn't a novice or anything when it comes to talking about politics. So maybe we could just do a bit of it. This week, I thought, because it is still a culture and TV and entertainment and movie and gaming channel, I thought if there's any sort of crossover with anything entertainment movie related, this week, if anyone saw it, outside Trump's latest trial, old Bobby De Niro rocked up. Did you see that? Did anyone see that?
Yeah.
Have you seen this? Have you heard about this?
He is off his rocker. Wow.
Yeah. The man's 80 years old. He actually doesn't look 80 years old, but he is.
No.
If you can believe that. He's 80 years old. And is suffers from an acute case of Trump derangement syndrome. Quite a bad case of it. Now, I don't know exactly what everyone's politics is exactly on this panel or in the audience, but or in the chat or anything. But I'll just sort of lay out my stall, so at least all the cards on the table. Let's say where we are. You guys in the United States have got a two-party system. A fairly locked down two-party system. Is there a single senator or congressman or governor that isn't from one of the main two parties? Culture Nick, is there a single one? Is there a single governor or anything from the Libertarian Party? I don't think there is. Is there?
I think there is.
Right. So it's a two-party system. Now, Britain isn't much better. We're a bit better, but not much better. It's essentially a two-party system. In Europe, in some countries, Holland, Germany, France, they have coalitions governments much more often, and it's be a bit unfair to characterize a lot of them as a two-party system. Of course, you've got countries like China, where it's truly a one-party system. Now, a two-party system isn't, in all sorts of ways, is far from ideal, really, because if both the parties are captured by whoever, then you're essentially dealing with a one-party state again. Now, Trump broke that in 2016, sort of broke that dynamic at least a bit. Now, I'm not a massive fan of Trump. I think he's quite funny. I think he's quite entertaining. I think when he was your president, he didn't do a particularly bad job. He was better than someone like LBJ. He was better than someone like George Bush Jr.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't do that bad of a job. Now, I don't love him. I'm not one of these people that put Trump on a pedestal, that he's the great white hope. He's the answer to all your dreams. He's going to drain the swamp and everything's going to be brilliant. I don't think that. However, I would I would back him and pick him over Joe Biden and the Democratic Party establishment every single day of the week without blinking. Absolutely. I want him to win in November, 100%, because the Democratic Party, the Democratic establishment, is one of the most corrupt, evil entities on this planet.
Yeah.
It's a despicable thing. It's sad for me to see what they're doing to America. And one other thing to say, if anyone in the chat or the audience, whoever's watching this, doesn't know, I am actually half American. My father is an American. He was born and raised in Oregon. He came over to Britain in the 70s. And so I am actually half American. I'm sort of an Anglo-American. I've got lots and lots of family in the United States. I've been to the United States. So I've got a bit of a dog in this fight. So I'm not just this annoying limey that is daring to pass judgment on American politics. I have got a little bit of a dog in the game. Okay, so that's my politics. I don't love Trump, but if he can, what he said for a few months ago, talking about he's going to drain the swamp for real this time, he's actually going to deal with entities like the FBI and the CIA and the NSA and term limits, so you don't get people like Feinstein there forever.
Career politicians.
All sorts of things that he says he's going to do this time. Fingers crossed he will. Fingers crossed he will. So, okay, on to Bobby De Niro outside the courthouse in New York City earlier this week. Can we play that clip, Nate? Is that all right?
Yeah.
We give it just about a minute
Trump,
and a half.
this kind of government will perish from the earth. I don't mean to scare you. No, wait, maybe I do mean to scare you. If Trump returns to the White House, you can kiss these freedoms goodbye that we all take for granted. And elections, forget about it. That's over. That's done. If he gets in, I can tell you right now, he will never leave. He will never leave. You know that.
He already left once.
He will never leave. What does that mean? Is that the country we want to live in? Do we want him running this country and saying, I'm not leaving, I'm dictator for life? And that's why I've joined the Biden-Harris campaign, because the only way to preserve our freedoms and hold on to our humanity is to vote for Joe Biden for president. Really.
Robert De Niro. You need to shut your mouth and go home now. You need to get off the stage of politics. It's a true embarrassment.
TDS in full effect.
It's he's a paid shill for some of the worst people on this planet. Now, before I sort of hand it over to Nate, I did a little bit of a segment on this, or touched on it on the Lotus Eaters podcast. It garnered a fair bit of debate, as you can sort of imagine, over just whether Robert De Niro is actually a good actor or not. It sort of boiled down to that quite quickly. Now, I will say, I do think, at least he used to be, a great actor in the sort of his early career, and things like Mean Streets and Taxi Driver and Goodfellas, and even Casino, up to the sort of Casino years.
I even liked him in the Fockers movies,
right. or Godfather Part 2. I would rate him as an extremely fine actor, but as a man, as a politician, as an activist these days, he's beneath contempt. He's beneath my contempt. He's a mook. So anyway, I've talked for a bit now. I'll let you guys go.
No, I mean, I agree with you with respect to the sort of, not putting Trump on a pedestal. One of the reasons why I rate Trump strikes me as someone that, outside, I think any politician who is outside of the establishment bloc is always going to be better off. They're always going to be better for the country than someone who's ingrained in the establishment as a whole. Someone who, bought and paid for. There's lobby groups that can push them, coerce them to do things. I mean, Trump didn't famously he didn't take a salary when he was in office as well.
Is that right? I didn't know that one.
I'm pretty certain. Yeah, I'm pretty certain he didn't take a salary. He didn't pay for the security. There's one thing which he didn't take in terms of the money from it all, or at least he said anyway. Whether he did it or not, I'm not sure. But it doesn't strike me as someone that can actually be bought, quite frankly. Regardless of what you think of the man, he's got his wealth. He's not a career politician. He had a career. He had lots of money. He doesn't need the money, right? He strikes me as someone who does actually have integrity and does actually want to do, he does want to do things. I mean, he did do some of the stuff he did, not great, less said about, the vaccine, the better, and things like this.
Yeah,
but
Operation Warp Speed.
Yeah, locking people down, all this other crap. But a border wall, on certain policies, he's bang up and he's really, really good.
Yeah.
This Robert De Niro, it's
he
so
will never leave.
Obvious. Yeah,
what are you talking about? What are you talking about?
You just prefaced it by saying if he gets in again. So obviously he's left. What?
It's
Like,
just
his
lies
short-term
upon
memory.
lies upon lies.
I mean,
It's
Robert De
disgusting.
Niro's cognitive ability must be going. Like, he clearly forgets that, you know, Trump has been in and gone. Like, what is he expecting? Is it not everyone's as stupid as you, Robert? Like, not everyone's like, oh yeah, sure. What do you think? What these people? It's so insane the level that they escalate and put people on. They genuinely think he's some sort of psychotic dictator. What has he ever done that was dictatorial? What did he do?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know,
Sorry.
he certainly didn't certainly didn't quid pro quo with somebody so that you could get rid of a third party in another country so that you wouldn't be investigated or a member of your family wouldn't be investigated. I mean, he certainly, you know, didn't do all the things that those 51 corrupted intelligence agency, former intelligence agency specialists said that were done. He didn't pass on classified documents to third parties. That seems to have happened previously. He didn't do an awful lot of things that would have, you know, shown him to be compromised or corrupt. You know, the stretch that they're going to with this particular case in front of the courthouse where the sham trial was conducted. The whole world's seeing this, by the way. You know, he certainly didn't do any of those things. There certainly isn't a criminal action in any of this. You know, they're just trying to get the pictures. They're trying to get the moment. They're, you know, and you know, most of these cases are going to result in nothing because, well, they don't really mean anything. They had to create a whole law in New York, and the man that created the law or sponsored the law into being to go after Trump specifically has now been subjected to the same law, saying and he recently came out and said it's unconstitutional. Because again, it's always been a witch hunt because they can't beat him any other way. They have no ideas. That's the thing. Politics has to be about, I have a better idea. I have a better way to get from point A to point B. That's what leadership is. And I first of all, I do not believe that the current occupant of the White House can articulate an idea, at least without a nap in between. And I don't believe that I don't believe that Trump has any difficulty expressing himself. And I think that the biggest exposure is the format for this sham debate that's going to happen, where I think if Trump doesn't get the drug test and the no earpieces and the no teleprompters, you know, as part of his debate package things, he shouldn't agree to any of the conditions for the debate. And that's all I have to say about that. We have a uniparty here in the United States, but it's not any different than the uniparty that exists in the UK. So, I mean, you guys are suffering the same weight as we are.
Aren't we ever?
My God. I don't know if Nick wants to say anything before I sort of go again.
I'm kind of in the same boat. So I'm kind of independent conservative. I'm not a big fan of the Rhino Republicans. I don't really like any Democrats, but I will tell you, Fetterman, who was a complete joke when he even got elected, has actually been coming out against him. So there are some Democrats that I do find myself having a little bit of respect for. But
the guy's got brain damage.
Yeah, exactly. And you would think that he would just be going along with the status quo of the Democrat Party, but he's actually been pushing back, surprisingly. You know, maybe that's his brain damage kicking in. You know, who knows?
Forgot which to lie about.
Yeah, but yeah, I am a Trump fan, but I'm also very critical of Trump. You know, the Operation Warp Speed, the handling of the coup, the bump stock bans, the let's take the guns before the due process stuff. There's lots of stuff that he's said and done that I'm like not a fan of at all. A lot of the people he got in there and kind of you know, kind of had on his team and stuff, I was not a fan of. So I'm very critical of Trump. but I do think he is the best option moving forward. I think he learned a lot from that first administration, and I don't think he'll make the same mistakes twice. There's all new, different kind of mistakes he can make on a second term. And then with the De Niro thing, he's got the biggest case of TDS I've seen between him and Mark Hamill. They're kind of neck and neck. But these actors, I don't know why they get involved at all, because when you get involved with politics, you're not going to be able to please everybody. Half the country voted for Trump. So now you got half the country despising and hating you. It's better off if you just keep your mouth shut and just secretly donate to the people that you like, and just don't even get involved, because now he looks like a crazy person, and he is. He could have kept that quiet that he's a crazy person, but instead he decided to air it out there for the whole world to see, and he's been doing it since 2016. And there's a lot of other people that are like that too, and there's a lot of conservative actors that keep quiet because they don't want to get destroyed by people in this country or around the world or by media or anything like that. So yeah, it's Robert De Niro's a freaking joke. I found that whole thing funny. What was funnier is whoever went and set off the car alarm while he was talking, like, shut up, let me go pound on this car and set off this car alarm. So it'll jack up his talking over here. But yeah, it was comical for sure.
It was funny. There was a bit of pushback sort of in real time, people heckling De Niro, like pro-Trump people heckling,
and he was going right back at him.
Yeah. And I think Donald Jr. did a press conference very shortly after saying, screw De Niro, don't listen to De Niro. He's just a silly old washed up bum of a guy, So a couple more things to say about Trump. Yeah, Nate, you said the less said, the better about the whole vaccine thing. And where Trump originally came in saying he's going to drain the swamp, but then he brings in someone like Scaramucci. Do you remember the mooch? Scaramucci, do you remember him? And then Trump's first attempt to drain the swamp consisted of taking a very, very long time to remove Comey from the FBI, and like not much more than that. Okay, so you can criticize Trump on his own terms. Okay, fine, but he also did some really great things. The border wall, not embroiling the United States in some sort of endless forever war on the other side of the world for really nefarious reasons. Not doing that even once. That alone, it was superb. That alone would make me back him over any Democrat pick ever. And of course, crazy. Biden, and of course, old Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe himself, is, so obviously, so clearly, sort of quintessentially a puppet for someone else, for other people. And you talk about the Uni Party in America. We've essentially got the Uni Party here in the United States, same in Canada, same in Australia. Yeah, they're all sort of controlled by the same cabal of various moneyed people, shadowy moneyed people, whoever they are. And so and Trump is not in their club. He's not in their club, really. Certainly not entirely. And so once again, I will take him any day of the week. If it's a binary option between someone like Joe and the Donald, I'm going to take the Donald. And people like Mark Hamill and Robert De Niro, they can go to hell with bells on, right? I just will not have it. And hopefully, I really hope that it's just painfully obvious to everyone in the United States that Biden and the Democratic Party machine is working for an interest which is not that of the American people. Now, the same goes, I'm not just pouring scorn on you guys for the sake of it. The absolutely the same goes for Great Britain. Both the Conservative Party and the Labour Party are not working, have got no intention of working for the best interests of the people, our people. And it's a terrible state of affairs. Nate.
Yeah, no. I mean, I completely agree. I mean, anyone who follows me on Twitter knows I spend a large portion of my time riling people up and posting nonsense towards individuals that they're absolutely insane. Like, not starting a war just should be the basic, but it's not. It's not the basic. That should just be the norm. You didn't start a war? Good for you. Excellent. Right? But
yeah, no new wars under Trump's first administration.
Yeah, but this is what I mean. I mean, it's beyond me why everyone who seems to be all this, oh no, I'm the peace loving left, I'm this, I'm peace loving Democrat, whatever. They're so war hungry. They absolutely want blood on their hands, and they do have blood on their hands in a multitude of ways. I mean, in the UK, we have a uni party anyway, so it's pretty apparent conservatives are just left wing at this point. So that they've got blood on their hands for sure. Boris, absolute prick. He unequivocally has blood on his hands. But it's crazy, isn't it? How people forget that and they frame Trump as this sort of, I don't know, this mass murdering figure, and it's like, mate, he's not. He hasn't started any wars. He's not. What are you doing? No, like, huh? But you look at what's going on now. I mean, Ukraine, for instance. Not to get too heavy into that. There was a video released now from Russia, I think literally surfaced today, saying, I'm going to warn you now, Putin was like, if there's US forces and European forces on the front line trying to get Ukrainians out, I'm still going to treat that like the front line. We're still sending shells down. Like, do you want global conflict? Was the quote. Like, do you want global conflict? And this is what we're, pushing closer and closer towards. These weak men in charge will destroy the West unequivocally. So you do need someone, not associated with this sort of machine of the sort of shadowy kind that can't be controlled, that is a bit of a loose wire in that regard, because there's clearly a push for conflict, and that needs to be diffused. I think anyone would want it to be diffused. Yeah. Anyone with a sane brain wants it to be diffused.
Did you guys watch the interview between Tucker Carlson and Jeffrey Sachs that dropped the other day?
Catch that. No, I didn't catch that one.
So Jeffrey Sachs, he was a diplomat. He's part of the UN. He was part of the government here in the U.S. for decades and decades, and he goes in to talk about this whole thing with Russia and the Ukraine, and how when Russia disbanded, or the USSR disbanded, they basically wanted to just be normal, be a part of the world economy, and get away from the other communism and all that sort of stuff, and wanted to be a part of NATO. Well, NATO was formed kind of go to kind of fight against the Russians at the time, but they disbanded, but then NATO stuck around, and they said it wouldn't expand. Well, they kept expanding NATO, and they were trying to expand NATO and have the Ukraine come in, all this different stuff, which caused a lot of this stuff. Like the US caused a lot of this stuff in the UN and stuff.
There's no way you can look at, not to get too off base with what we're talking about, but there's no way you can look at that situation and if roles were reversed, think that these are not, acts of aggression or escalation. Like, they were absolutely acts of aggression. Like, you had like a European force that hated you and they were getting closer and closer to UK. You'd be like, this doesn't look good here. This looks potentially, geopolitically like someone's going to come and attack me. So
yeah, I highly recommend watch that interview. It's very interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I could say, sorry. Oh, go on, Culture.
No, please.
Okay, so I was going to say a quick word about the military-industrial complex. Now, some people might think that that's a conspiracy theory. That's a tinfoil hat wearing thing. But of course, it's absolutely not. Eisenhower, Dwight D. Eisenhower, who was Supreme Commander of the Allied Forces in World War II, who went on to become president straight after World War II, more or less, or after Truman. When he left office in 1960, to make way for John Kennedy, he made a speech directly to the people on TV saying, beware the military-industrial complex. If anyone should know about it, it was Ike. It was Eisenhower. He was the military in World War II. He was the military-industrial complex as president in the 50s. The OSS turned into the CIA under his watch. He allowed Alan Dulles and John Foster Dulles to conduct all foreign policy for the United States during the 50s. Okay, so if anyone knows, and he went on TV saying, beware the military-industrial complex. Ever since John Kennedy was assassinated in November 1963, with one or two little exceptions, like maybe you could say Carter, or to a lesser extent, maybe Ford, with a few examples, and Trump, that military-industrial complex, whether it's guys at the State Department or whether it's guys at the Pentagon, they're the real power. Any president can come and go as long as they get the foreign policy and the budgets they want. Then it's okay. Now Trump is a fly in their ointment, so to speak. He's not necessarily going to play the game exactly as they want it played. So they're trying to destroy him. So we're seeing this lawfare. We're seeing the Department of Justice weaponized against Trump to bring any sort of case against him they possibly can to destroy him, even though he was already been president for 4 years. It's crazy. We'll wheel out 80-year-old Robert De Niro to try and tell the world that Trump is a dictator and he will never leave. He wants to make himself emperor of the United States. He's going to destroy the Constitution and democracy as we know it. And, he's going to weaponize the Justice Department. It's exactly what they're doing.
It's already been done.
It's a fait accompli. It's already been done. So they always accuse you of what they're doing.
What they're doing. Yeah.
Projection.
Sounds a lot like narcissism.
There's never been a more obvious or egregious example than what they're accusing Trump of is exactly what they've already done or what they're in the process of doing. And I hope it's so obvious that it's not lost on the vast majority of Americans. That's all I can say. I just hope so.
Well,
a lot of them are waking up for sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I would say that I've been joined by people I never expected to be joined by. And, we need as many populist leaders as we can possibly find at this point in time. I don't think anybody could argue with that point of view. We need people who are going to, flip the bird, so to speak, at the establishment. And rise up for their fellow Americans, which, that's kind of what Trump was doing for, whatever you think of him. He certainly was thumbing his nose at the establishment. And I like I said, it's very easy to talk about supporting him when, you recognize what he's going through now, and B, what he went through when he was president. And again, I don't even think he knew the extent with which the government was already corrupted, because you talked, Bo, about the people that he brought in early on during his tenure. And I don't think he realized just how tied in some of these politicians were. They were all in place to be available to him to call upon because they did worry about him becoming president. I mean, you can go back and take a look at the people who all of a sudden started to cozy up to him at the time. Again, I mean, American politics has always been fascinating to me since I was 16 years old. So, my government classes and all the other civics classes that I took from high school onward and into college were always in pursuit of understanding how things were running as opposed to how they were supposed to run. And we've been in a compromised system since, as you described, probably the Kennedy situation. So, we already know now that we've had the records released that that was a internal issue that they went about solving themselves. And they know they couldn't get away with it again if they brought somebody else into this office. I have a feeling that going into the next few months, that regardless what this verdict is, which just came in, by the way, you'll have massive backlash either way. and that
What is the
believe me, the instability will be ridiculous.
What was the verdict?
It hasn't been read yet, but it is. It's
Oh,
in.
right.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
There's no way they're going to let it go through the weekend. It will get one tomorrow, as I presume.
Oh no,
They're not gonna sit there all weekend.
they anticipated getting it done in the next 30 minutes, Nick. So
Okay.
Oh,
Nice.
okay. I thought they were done for the day, but I guess not.
well, I'm
I just
I
think
heard, I think-
anyone who votes.
Okay.
yeah.
I
Sorry.
was just gonna say anyone who votes for Biden. My God, like what is wrong with you? Like, why would you want someone who's so very clearly a cabbage?
Yeah.
Like genuinely, and I'm not trying to be nasty, but why
No.
would you want someone who's so very clearly a cabbage and a puppet in charge? Why?
Well, some
you
people
can't hold them
rather.
accountable. You're not.
Yeah, but-
they're not telling you what to do. It's someone else.
Yeah, but
Bizarre.
some people quite like cabbage.
I don't. It makes you fart.
Global elites do.
Hmm. Go on,
Perhaps
Bo.
just to round it out or round it off, I think that I've just read somewhere, if I can recall, that in a week or two, or in not too long in the future, I think Hunter Biden's going on trial. Finally, I think I've read that somewhere. But Trump has got many more trials. I think another 4 or 5, and they will run them all the way up to November on various things.
They absolutely have to.
That's just insane.
They're terrified of him, man.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, but-
absolutely
Yeah.
terrified.
But there's a reason why, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Right. That's.
Yeah.
I think that alone is indicative of the reason why. Yeah. God.
Why we're where we're
Ridiculous.
at. Yeah.
Yeah. We've got a super chat actually here
Sweet.
for me and you, Bo. Dragon Reborn dropping in with £50. So
Wow.
thank you so much, man. It says, for Mr. H and Bo, as a Brit of Guyanese Indian descent, I'm fed up with our politicians on both sides. As
Yeah.
British people and taxpayers have suffered enough, and we need positive change. When it comes to our UK election, I'm at a loss of who to trust and vote for. Yeah. Well,
You
Bo, who are
currently
you
have
gonna-
currently have no options. There is certainly no mainstream party that has got your interests at heart. So it's a dark place. It's a dark time. I'm hoping that by the next electoral cycle in Britain, in another 4 or 5 years, hopefully the landscape will have changed. I hope so. I hope some of the smaller parties might gain more traction, or just the whole paradigm may have changed where independent candidates might get taken a bit more seriously. In Britain, we've always had a little bit of a tradition of independence. In Parliament, there's usually 1 or 2 or 3. I mean, look at George Galloway. It's not completely unheard of for an independent to actually win a seat in Parliament. It's almost unheard of in the United States, but we've got a little bit more of a history with it. I'm hoping that the paradigm will shift to the point where the 2 or 3 big parties in Britain are all completely and utterly revealed as containment projects, and that the smaller parties and even independents actually start winning in numbers. But for this election next month, I don't know what to tell you, I'm afraid.
Well, I do, Darren. Labour will get in power. That's unequivocal.
Oh,
That's a
yeah.
fact. Yeah.
But who
so-
to trust and vote for, though? That's what he asked.
Yeah, no, true. I just thought it was a really good segue. Come on, Bo.
Oh,
you're killing the
sorry.
segue here. No. Bo, I second that in terms of who to trust and vote for. I mean, look, Darren, mate, you've got no one, quite frankly. Reform are traitors. Their immigration policy is a total joke. It literally still a joke, like 1 in, 1 out, still 500,000 or something like that. Like, what are you doing? It's staggering numbers. It's absolutely absurd. It's unsustainable. I mean, it will still be certain demographics that will come in, and they absolutely unequivocally will still repopulate at a much higher rate. So you're still leading to a replacement element as well. It's ridiculous. You cannot vote for Labour, Conservative, or Reform and trust anything that they say or do. They're awful people. All of them are awful. But I think realistically, what everyone needs to think about in the UK is the next election. So not the one coming up, but the next one. You need to think about the one moving forwards past that. And so does anyone in a political party as well. They should be thinking about moving the goals, for the next one. Because this one's done. It's a done deal. Conservatives they've been told to pass the baton over. They are passing the baton over. It's a done deal. We know that from all of their campaigning. It's a joke. It's a farce. All of them are having a joke at everyone's expense. The Lib Dem, Ed Davey, going down kids' water slides and stuff like this. They're literally laughing in Britain's face. I hold them in such high contempt for this, and they're all retards. I'm so sick of the political class being such unintelligent, just degenerate douchebags. There's not a critical thought amongst any of them. They're all morons. I hate it. So no, Darren, can't trust anyone. Can't really vote for anyone either. It's a done deal. Labour will get in. But if you do want to try, vote for an independent in your area. That's all I would say. But there's not much else I could say, to be fair.
Looks like jury reached a verdict in the Trump case. They're just waiting for him to announce it.
Oh, that's what Culture said. Yeah. We've got one from Midnight Meterwitz for $5. Says Mr. H said it best a while back. Left and right are two sides of the same arse. Incredible quote. Yeah, in the UK, Labour they are. Yeah, they are. And anything which is an establishment uniparty, yeah, they are. They're literally two cheeks of the same arse. Absolutely. Horseradish Power says De Niro was a customer of a prostitution ring in France. Actually linked a independent article. Skeletons in the closet, those who scream the loudest.
Oh, always. Yeah. And he definitely was one of the members of the bad guys. So it's not new.